Looks like we are. Is that your there's the kids right when we go
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
You you can say something to them if you need to. We're live,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Hey,
so
buddy. I'm having a chat with a buddy. You're gonna have to give me some time, okay? All right.
awesome.
A lot of time. So
I'll
go find something to do, okay?
get
All right.
into something.
Yeah.
There we go, man. So we have Lucas here, and Lucas, as you can tell, is a busy man, and I appreciate your time this morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, buddy. I'm good. I'm good. Great. It's a nice day. We got poured on yesterday. Last night, the rain was falling hard, so I'm thankful for some blue sky and being able to sit out here.
Jason sends his
Hey,
kisses to you
Jason.
and
Yeah.
me. There's three of
He's
them,
very
so they're
affectionate. Yeah.
totally that guy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he comes off as such a hard individual, but he's such a softie.
Oh, totally. Totally. And
Yeah,
didn't you just get one of his pups too?
I did. Yeah, I flew all the way to Illinois and carried the poor little pup in a soft carrier under the seat. And the stewardess there was like, "Oh, you can't pet the puppy, or you can't have it unzipped, or whatever." And so as soon as she left, I'd unzip it and I'd pet the pup because he was nervous.
Of
But
course.
yeah, they want to keep him from getting out and causing trouble. I kind of got
Well,
yelled at for.
the thing is that if they defecate or urinate on that plane anywhere, then that becomes kind of a biohazard, and a lot of times they'll take that plane and land it right where it is in the sky, man, and that costs a
Really?
lot of money. Yes, people don't realize
Oh,
that. That's what they're having problems with. Service dog, quote unquote, service dogs, right? And just a really quick hack. So for if you need your dog to use the restroom. Oh, hold on one second. I got to shut this door. My dogs are hearing me and they're growling. Um, maybe. There we go. So if you have a service dog and you're about ready to catch a flight, and you know that your dog needs to go poop, right? A good hack is to put a little Q-tip. Dude, I can't believe I'm saying it, but and you would just put it right inside their butt, like just let a little bit hanging out, and then don't let them bite it or anything, but just let them. Um, it basically feels a little funky to them, and they try to push it out on their own, and so we can get a dog to poop. It's just like if a dog has like a
that makes
hair or
sense.
something, right? They have a
Yeah,
hair,
yeah.
or a piece of grass, right? And it's just hanging out. Then you can see that they'll try to evacuate that, and I'm all squatting. Little
Well, that's
TMI.
what the mama dog does to the pups to help them poop. They lick their backsides, kind of stimulate things. Yeah,
That's right,
that
and
makes
their front too. So
yeah.
Lucas' seat was more of a biohazard. That's Jason's little. Well, and Lucas, um, I'm going to share that. Hey, knock it off. My cat, my dog's here looking at. Matching has been around since Christ was a child. Matching or a matchstick, right? So that's what Linda's referring to, matching, or a
Okay.
Q-tip, right? So we don't have matches anymore. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, you see them every once in a while, but not too often. And we have Teresa joining us. We have Ronnie joining us. These guys are joining us from YouTube. And if you guys have not joined my YouTube channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Bow Wow Bill YouTube channel. And then also my Patreon page. And I found out about Lucas from one of my Patreon subscribers. So patreon.com/Bow Wow Bills. I'll put up a link in the comments. And I'm starting to get more and more supporters. And I cannot thank you guys enough. This is something that I've been dreaming about doing, is becoming a content creator full time, where I can come out and meet wonderful people like Lucas and interview them and have people get a better understanding of the dogs that they invite into their lives. And a lot of times these guys people look at these livestock guardian dogs, what we're going to be talking about today. And as you can tell, Lucas lives on a farm. We got roosters in the background. We got donkeys hee-hawing and a busy life. And these dogs are working dogs. And a lot of people just look at them as big, floofy dogs, and they're going to be sorely disappointed. And sometimes it's going to be a situation that they're going to regret, man. If you don't have a job for these working dogs, and we got an unemployment situation, And a lot of times when that happens, the dog is going to start to figure out things around your house, since you don't have the livestock that they are intrinsically bred to guard, that they're going to be doing actions that are not really suitable for the human life with this dog. And so we're going to get into that. Would you mind, while I share this, I'm going to share it to my personal page and a couple other pages. Would you mind just giving us a quick introduction about who you are, where you are, and what you're all about there, Lucas?
Yeah. Growing up, always loved dogs, and I'd always bring the stray dogs home as a kid, and ended up after college in Montana doing the cowboy thing and working on different cattle ranches and stuff. And when I married my wife, I got into sheep shearing, and I was already into farming, raising a bunch of sheep. And I took over the sheep shearing business from her and her dad, and I get her to help me every once in a while still, but she sort of retired after she got me trained. And
Yeah,
so
that's what
it's hard
happens.
work. Yeah, it's hard work. It's in fact, I've got a few sheep to shear after we get done here today. But yeah, I got my first Tibetan Mastiff, and I've had all the different breeds of livestock guardian dogs to watch my sheep, because everything wants to eat sheep.
Mm.
I even had an eagle come down and grab one of my lambs once, and my neighbor ran out in her underwear banging pots and pans together to scare it and dropped the lamb. I had the lamb, or I had the sheep for years after that. Um, but I've had the Great Pyrenees and the Maramas and Anatolian Shepherds, Kangals. I've had a lot of different breeds, and I got one of these Tibetan Mastiffs from a family, and this is really pertinent to what we're talking about today, because they had bought this Tibetan Mastiff from a guy back east as a pet. And every time, they made her part of the family, and she got to ride in the car with them. She loved going on car rides. But when they tried to leave, she would destroy the house. She had serious separation anxiety. And these dogs are so intelligent, not just the Tibetan Mastiff, they are different than most of your LGDs in the way their brain works and what they perceive as their job.
Mm.
But they need a job, like you were saying. And so it was a deal where she was just really getting difficult to manage, and she was just destroying everything whenever they would leave her behind. And then they took her camping, and these 3-year-old girls were running around the campsite screaming, and she nipped the other girl to try and kind of control the situation. And this is what people don't understand. This dog was really well socialized. She was used to being around people. She went everywhere. But these dogs, they've got in their minds that they need to have a job, and if you don't provide that for them, they're going to make up their own idea of what their job is. So that was my first experience. They brought me this dog that they couldn't manage anymore. She was like 3.5, 4 years old. And every time we took our eyes off her for the next 2 years, she took off down the driveway and started heading back to try and find her people for 2 years. And now Tibetan Mastiffs are especially bonded and don't take change well. A lot of your other livestock guardian breeds are a little more malleable. But eventually she decided she was at home and she was okay with us, and we became her home. But it took 2 years before she settled. That's when I met Jason. I was wanting to, we spent time with her enough to, she was starting to get along with everything out here. So I met Jason, who was breeding Tibetan Mastiffs as livestock guardian dogs. And he's really gone the more direction of the Century Family Farm Guardians. And I think that's probably more appropriate for the Tibetan Mastiff specifically. But if you're interested in one of these Great Pyrenees or livestock guardian dogs as a pet, there's a lot you have to there's a lot of homework you're going to have to
A
do.
lot to consider, man. A lot to consider. I
Yeah.
mean, just that predator mind is very opportunistic, right? And so when that girl runs across that dog, that's their opportunity. And a lot of times when they're a working breed, like they're no joke, and they're working breeds. And just so you know, I just messaged Jason, and he's available to join us too if you want to bring him on to ask him some questions here later. I'll send him a link, and then we can have him join us as well, so we can. I've interviewed Jason before, and also we're going to be doing some history on these dogs. He's awesome. So I'll let him know whenever we're ready. We can bring him on and ask him a few questions regarding the experience that he's had, and also with you guys too, and on how you've met, and just see where it goes. But so
Yeah.
so it's Tibetan Mastiff, and then Great Pyrenees. And when I was in Sun Valley recently, I met a Mastiff, a French Mastiff. I can't remember the name of it. What was it called? If anybody can let me know in the comments. Can I do it from my phone? Yep. Yes, you can. Jason's wondering if he can come on from the phone. But once I saw this dog, and I remember my client, because the dog tore their CCL. The dog did tore their tendon. And they were out guarding livestock. The dog was doing what it was supposed to do. And I remember when my client saw the dog come out after surgery, they MREMA is what it's called. Jason just
Oh, the
commented here.
Maremas.
Yep,
Yeah, the
MREMA.
Maremas.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And it was black and white, and it just had a big, huge coat, huge dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember my client, like, they had the one leg all shaved up because they just operated on it, and then the dog, the hair was matted and stuff, and like you could tell that this dog was an outside dog. And my client was just like, "Oh my gosh, is that?" And I'm just like, "That dog is happy as a clam in sand, man. This is exactly what these dogs are bred for. This is exactly what they do. It's unfortunate that the dog injured themselves, but that's where a lot of people just have a misconception. I think that as we have advanced as far as like technology is concerned, industrialization, all that stuff, that we've had a lot of the, I mean, basically the role of the dog has changed dramatically in the last 100 years, right?
Yeah.
But the dog hasn't changed. It's just that how we perceive it has changed, and we look at these big fluffy dogs as cute and kind. But what is the main purpose of a livestock guardian dog?
Well, yeah. I mean, historically, these dogs have lived with roaming shepherds. They've
Mm-hmm.
lived with nomadic people that, and maybe they're not as nomadic as the Tibetan and the Nepalese, where they're actually moving their yaks from, summer grazing to winter grazing, and trying to figure out, moving every 3-4 months, or I don't know all the specifics of the different tribes. But, if we're talking about the Turkish region, or where these dogs all come from. And the Maremma, Great Pyrenees, Anatolians, Kangals, they all kind of originate from the same area. And you're going to find Tibetan Mastiff in the origin of just about all of these dogs. And they have lived with the families, watching their livestock. And that's one of the things that's very, very different and interesting about the Tibetan Mastiff versus other livestock guardian breeds, because the Maremmas, especially, I think the Maremmas are a terrible pet because they have not been petified by, yeah, by Americans, right?
Right.
The Great Pyrenees, a little different deal. The Great Pyrenees have been here for a long time, and you've got a lot of show lines that they've kind of bred out a lot of the working traits, though they're still there. And this is why when they get out, just like a husky or a Malamute, they go roaming. They've got to travel. They've still got that instinct to move and see the world. And they're not even a really great dog for a lot of people that want livestock guardian dogs, because here in the U.S., we've got a ton of little homesteads, 5-acre chunks,
Mm.
and that's just not enough working area for your average uh, uh, Great Pyrenees or Maremma to work. However, a good Maremma or a good Great Pyrenees are going to want to stay close to the livestock. And the Tibetan Mastiff wants to stay close to the farm. They don't roam like a lot of these other breeds. They weren't meant to travel as much. And
Okay.
so, if you wanted one for a pet, you've really got to not just look at the parents of the dog and the breeder who's got these puppies. Yeah, they're cute and fluffy, but you want to see a good breeder is going to give you a list of people that you can call that bought puppies from me. If I've got puppies to sell, I can give you a dozen names like that, and people that are happy with their dogs that can tell you how they act in different situations. And you really have to do your homework, especially if you're going to spend $3,000 on a puppy. You better be doing your homework. And
Check this out.
so
I found this. This is actual. I'm looking for you because you were talking about the nomadic people and the original purpose of
yeah,
these dogs. And look at this. Like, I mean, here's some. Here we go. You know, this is where they're used to being. You know, and look at this guy with
yeah.
his dog here. And look at that dog.
Well, they are part of the family. That's actually a problem that we have in the United States is we've taken these livestock guardian dogs that are used to having a relationship with the shepherd and the shepherd's family, and we've thrown them out in these fields and said, "Here, watch my sheep," and they're totally separate. That is a problem in the mentality and the thinking of these livestock guardian dogs in the United States.
Wow. I mean, I remember Jason saying that he would go out and sleep with his dogs too, right? To just kind
Yeah,
of show them,
yeah. Jason's sort of crazy though,
hey. But look at we got
but
these cows here, and then we got this guy over here with his dog,
yeah,
you know, trimming them up, grooming them out, you know,
yeah,
just basic husbandry. And he's going
yeah.
everywhere, it looks like, ever with this guy. And look at that coat too, man. That's the other aspect of this, is it's just that maintenance of these dogs. What a
Well, and
different.
it's a pretty regular debate on these livestock guardian pages about grooming, and a lot of people think that you shouldn't shave these dogs, and just like sheep,
Hmm.
that hair actually acts as an insulative barrier from the heat as well as the cold, and they're better off with the fur. But a lot of people want to just shave them to make them more comfortable. And the bottom line is, there's so many breeds and nice dogs out there. If you live in a really hot place, you shouldn't have one of these really extra fluffy dogs, probably. You should
Yeah.
go ahead and go for the Anatolian or the Kangol or something that's got a shorter coat. Maybe a Spanish Mastiff. Those are awesome dogs. But it's hard to find one without a lot of health issues because the genetic pool here in the United States is so small.
Well, look at the environment that these guys are on. They're on tip-top mountaintops, man. That's some
Yeah,
pretty crazy weather. I mean, even the snow-capped mountains in the background there.
yeah,
Um, but it's really cool, and I like to kind of go to the origins of these dogs and look right back into his little bicycle bed there, and or oh, look like a tractor. Look at that, man. That's so cool. It's little crank
that is
start
so
tractor.
cool.
Cool, dude.
Yeah,
And
it's
this is
amazing. Yeah,
the lifestyle
wow,
that
look at
we
that.
take advantage of, man, driving back home, you know? And this is what this, like I said, this dog is happy. This is their life. This is what they're meant to do.
Uh-huh.
And one of the first things that I ask whenever I have somebody with a livestock guardian dog is like, how many sheep do you got? You know, and or how many llamas you got? How many? And they look at me like I'm crazy, dude. And then I look back at them, and I look back at them like they're crazy, you know, because
I see this walking. I see this driving around Seattle. I'll see people walking a Great Pyrenees, and I'm just like, it can't be a happy dog.
it's got
It's
to
it's
be.
not living. Yeah,
it's not living in its intrinsic, what it intrinsically was meant to do. And it wants
Yeah.
to care, it wants to look after these livestock. And let's see, I want to go to the comments here too. I know we're kind of all over the place, but I like to just kind of see where we go. Those dogs aren't your typical pet dogs. They have a job. Petified. Pete loves a petified. I do too, man. A lot of these LGDs are petified because they were recreated, right? So just like you said,
Yeah.
the gene pool here is a little bit limited. Sometimes they'll cross breed with another dog. Sometimes
Right.
on purpose. Sometimes not so much. Jason says, "Preach." They are. My Stoehr is gorgeous, so smart, and really well-rounded addition to a home and family. Right. So,
Yeah.
do you have to keep those livestock dogs separated from your, say, typical pet dogs?
No, I don't think so. Not unless your pet dogs are a menace to the livestock. I've had dogs of all different breeds in the LGD categories that will tolerate the border collies until the border collies start trying to mess with stuff. And even when I'm there, because I'm the alpha, they'll put up with me using the border collie to move animals because I've got some Kelpie border collie crosses that are pretty good with working with the sheep. And so they'll watch them and they'll stay out of the way. But you know, if a dog came in and started chasing to kill and I wasn't around, that dog's in trouble. Um,
Meaning that dog's
so
probably going to go to heaven a lot of times with
probably,
these dogs. These
yeah,
dogs. That's one thing that one of my introductions to livestock guardian dogs was a gentleman that I was helping with his dogs, and he saw that I had dogs in my car, and I was telling Jason this, and he says, "Hey man, do not let one of those dogs out of the car. They will kill your dog."
mm-hmm.
And I said, "Thank you very much, man, for letting me know, because I know, predator mind. These dogs are no joke, very opportunistic. Once they see what's in front of them,
Right,
then they absolutely will take care of that, because it's something that they feel that they need to do, because it's their job, is what they were bred for,
right,
right? And then let me show you too. I got a list here because we started talking about just different environments and what dogs might be a better suitable fit for that particular environment. So I'm just going to show you this LG livestock guardian dog breed list here. Can you see this here? So we have
yeah,
Great Pyrenees,
yeah.
Commodore. Like, it's crazy because some of these I've never ever heard of, man.
The Commodore, and I think that's pronounced correctly, but they've got that real like
Like,
kind of dreadlocks, and they're not a typical dog here in the U.S., but everybody that has them just raves about them as an LGD. I have no idea how they would be as a pet, but they certainly take a lot of grooming, and if you wanted to have them as a pet. But these guys that have them as livestock guardian dogs, I think they do get in the habit of just shaving them every year because those dreads get so wild.
I've
Um,
I've had a couple of them and they stunk really bad. That was the one thing. And then
oh,
I've
you've
seen
had some.
no. I've met them, not myself. I have
Oh,
never had
okay.
any of these livestock guardian dogs myself, but I've met them during my as a professional dog trainer.
I see.
And it's just fascinating when you see a dog that you've never seen. And I actually saw this dog swimming, and it stunk.
Yeah, I believe that.
And here's the Tibetan dog, the Tibetan Mastiff. And the thing is with the Tibetan Mastiff is that they actually went viral a few years ago, and they still might have some viral posts here about people spending, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars or something for these dogs, man. Like, I couldn't believe how much these dogs were going for, and it's something
I
that
wanna I wanna say they're in the Guinness Book of Records. Is it's either 2 million or $3 million that one of these dogs went for, and
no
it was
kidding.
one. Yeah, it was one of the Chinese versions, which um, I do have a little bit of that influence in two of my dogs, but The rest of my dogs, there's none of that. I don't really want that. They bred in Chow, Shiba Inu, Thai Ridgeback, Shar-Pei, and they brought in all these breeds because, well, one of the reasons they cite is they were having trouble when they brought all these dogs in the 80s down to China, mainland China. The dogs were having trouble with the elevation change, and so they said they started breeding in some of these other dogs to help uh, the puppies, the next generations, handle the different elevation. And then they started just getting into seeing what they could do with the genetics. And so you've got these very different dogs. What Jason breeds, and this is what kind of brought us together. Jason is breeding the Aboriginal types that are actually out there in the mountains still working, and the mountains of Tibet and Nepal. And that's what I'm after. Obviously, I'm a farmer. I don't want these big, fluffy, saggy skinned, big boned. Like, I need a more athletic, intelligent dog. And they've really bred all that out of the Chinese version, and they've got a lot more health issues as a result. And over there, because dog is on the menu, if you go to a restaurant, right?
Yep.
If it doesn't work out, if they don't like what the litter turns out to be, it's fine. They're market dogs. They culling is something they still do there, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're culling for what the dog's going to look like, not the functionality of the dog. And that's something we're really missing here in the US because these dogs are family to most people. We're unwilling to cull anymore. And so we've got to find a home for every puppy. And
Cull means kill. Just so anybody knows what it is. It's not for the faint of heart, but this is how it used to be done.
Yeah, and if you can find a nice pet home that or a good situation for a dog, that's great. But like if you're feeding 100 dogs because you just can't, you and this is the problem with part of the problem with our mentality here is when they become family, it's we just make bad decisions on these dogs, and they are. I don't want to get specific because I don't. Anyway, a lot of these people, they spend a lot of money on a dog and they start breeding because they spend a lot of money and they want to make some money. They want to make that back, and those people, whether it's a rare breed of sheep or llamas or emus or ostriches. I mean, all these different species have gone through these phases in the United States where they were really, really popular. Alpacas, I just sheared 5 alpacas yesterday. I get offered free alpacas all the time, and they used to cost thousands of dollars. One went in Reno, the highest alpaca sold for like $7 million in Reno at a big sale. This was like 15 years ago or something.
They're sought after because of the soft fur, and
right.
they make socks, everything. We have an alpaca farm. Well, you're right here with me. So we have alpaca farms right on the other side of the mountain, right up the road here. Well, and their big alpaca farm went under. I remember seeing all those alpacas on I-5 there up by Bellingham, and Jason, we'll bring you on here in just a second. We got Jason joining us here pretty soon. He's in the lobby here in the studio. And I just wanted to say, because I'm going to share this really quick again, to show, because we were talking about the type of dogs that in hotter environments, right? And so you were talking about the Spanish Mastiff here and Attolian Shepherd. And then we also have a Kangal, right? And we can just look at these dogs' coats and realize, okay, cool, they're not from an environment that requires, them to endure very cold temperatures, and then also I wanted to show you guys this too, and we'll get Jason's handsome face on here. Where'd you go? Hold on. Well, no, I don't want to remove that. I'm going to add. Okay, what did I do? There we go. There you are. I hit the wrong button there. And I wanted to show this one really quick so we can just talk about this Lion's Blood Mastiff. and that's what they're looking at dogs, right? That's what they're the $1.9
Right.
million for this dog. Whoa,
Right.
$2 million.
Yeah, and that's a non-functional dog. That's just a dog that's bred to look big and fluffy and impressive, but that's not a functional dog. And, the working abilities of that dog are diminished. Our
Yeah.
dogs are athletic. They can run down coyotes and stuff. That thing couldn't catch a little kid running away,
Well, and I'm going to bring Jason on. He's out in the field right now, and I want to talk to him about, the requirement and what it requires for him to sell a dog to somebody like you, and just kind of see where we go with this conversation. Jason, I appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Look at that.
You might end up in my pocket here and there because I got new fence being put in,
Oh,
and I'm kind of like
you're
running around.
muted.
Is he muted? Oh, wait. You can't hear him. Hold on. Let me
I can't hear him.
Yep. Hold on. Let me do this. There we go. He says that he might have to put his phone in his pocket every once in a while because he's got fences being built. We won't keep you for long, Jason. This is going to be Lucas' interview, but I saw you here, and I just wanted to bring you on because Lucas just got a pup from you. And we spoke earlier about the livestock guardian dogs, right? And we're getting more into that. And then we have a lot of comments and stuff here. So what do you look for somebody that when they're buying a livestock guardian dog from you?
Well, okay. This will start out sounding stupid, but the less experience they have with livestock guardian dogs, the better. Because in today's day and age and the way people are, most of the experience they have is probably not any good. So you're going to have to
experience the better, huh?
It doesn't, well, okay, good experience, yes. But if somebody's like trying to find a replacement for their LGD that is only bad because they raised it improperly, like I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? To like retrain somebody. But like dog experience, an open mind, someone that wants to bond with the dog, good fencing, and someone that can understand, like we talked about before, that like your dog doesn't have a DNA test in its nose. Like it doesn't know that like that's your mother-in-law. Like these people have to be willing to like put the dog up when new people come by. Experience in dogs, but then again, not necessarily. Everybody like always has to say, "Oh, well, you have to be experienced, and you have to have all this experience in dogs." And I have people that have my dogs that it's the first dog they ever owned.
No kidding.
Yeah, and they do very well because like some of the best people to teach are people that don't already know.
It's like a blank slate, man. That's
Correct.
what I tell, even when I go to school. And a lot of people are going to this NAPO school, which is a little bit different from the topic that we're talking about, but the same type of principle of like, I tell people who are going to the school, pretend like you've never worked with a dog before in your life, right? Go in as a blank slate and be like Pete just commented here, more open-minded, right? If you have thoughts and beliefs and everything, and here's Lucas back with us.
I'm like a little angel. Sorry to interrupt you, but I look
you're
like
good.
I look like a little angel with my little halo.
You are a little angel. Look at him, Jason. Yeah, that's cool though. But that's a great point that you made, man. Is like, and that's what he was saying. Lucas is like, he prefers people that have no experience because, and I was saying that when I talk to some of the newer dog trainers that are going to schools was, pretend like you've never worked with a dog before in your life. Go in without these preconceptions and beliefs that people don't realize a lot of times that when we're presented with new information, it's first held against any beliefs that we have before it's disseminated, right? And so go in open-minded, let that stuff in there, and just listen, observe, and learn. And Jill's here. Hey, Jill. Shout out to Jill. She was just going to say that you look like an angel there, Jason. So, and so when and also when, like, Lucas was talking about the Tibetan Mastiff that he had and got bonded with that family that was previously. It took him 2 years
Right.
for this dog to stop walking down that driveway looking for that family. It's
Well,
heartbreaking, right? But
and that brought up like a great point too that can be made and proven right there, is that a lot of these LGDs are not staying home because people are not bonding to them. They're being taught improperly how to handle these dogs that have been working with people for centuries, and they're told like, oh, don't bond with them. The dogs stay home because they want to stay with you. They want to stay on their property. So when Lucas got this dog was like, this isn't my people. I'm going back to see my people, right? Same reason why you've got these dogs that everybody's like, oh, don't touch them, feed them out of an automatic feeder. The same reason why I'm generally looking for somebody that doesn't have that mindset, that wants to bring, Lucas has a Facebook group where a lot of people have their opinion, which is fine, that says like, don't, the dog never needs to come inside and stuff like that. And if that works for you, great, keep doing it, but if it doesn't, maybe try bringing the dog inside and like bonding with it.
well, we just posted up the video of the guy in Tibet with his dog, and
Yeah,
he's
that's like a
sleeping on the
photo op.
couch. Was it?
Yeah, that's like a photo op guy that like hangs out at like the the tourist area of Tibet with
Okay.
Chinese Tibetan Mastiffs to like take pictures of. I was like,
Okay.
bleh,
All right, Jason. Well, if you have a better video that you want me to share, then send it
no,
to me.
that shows it. I'm just a picky snob.
Of course, man. That's what we all are in some ways, right? But
Right.
because we know what we like, and we expect these dogs to perform, man. And Jason and I were speaking about, like, we're going to be doing a live stream here shortly with him and I, where we're going to talk about history of the dogs. And I believe and it's been argued that we wouldn't be where we are as a civilization without the help of these dogs taking us right from nomadic, right, to horticultural pastoral, where we can be in one area, and not only that, but exponentially raise more livestock to sustain a larger population, right?
And give us time off even.
And give us time off. What's up, Lucas?
I just wanted to bring up a point real quick. We'd sort of touched on it. There's this group that I run. It's Farmers Only Livestock Guardian Dogs LGD, Farmers Only LGD. But it's so frustrating there because you've got all these people that are writing in asking questions. What should I do with my dog? How should I raise them? All this stuff. And why aren't they asking the breeder?
Exactly.
And this is a big frustration that Jason and I vent to each other about regularly. Is I sold you the dog. I have the parents. They are successful on my farm. Why aren't you asking me how to raise this puppy? Why do you got to go on Facebook? And it's a real problem with the age of information we're in right now, where everybody would rather jump online and see what all these opinions are and kind of formulate their own religion on how to raise this dog versus
and not only
all
that,
of you.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say all of humanity up till the last. When did the internet start? All of humanity worked off of. You were educated by the relationships you had, so you would have mentors. And that whole the mentor mentality is totally gone away now that we've got the age of information. There's very few people that still value relationships with individuals and kind of putting yourself under somebody and saying, hey, what do I do in this situation? And it's just mind-boggling that I sold a puppy to this lady, and she was having problems with this dog. She was posting in other livestock guardian groups that I wasn't in, but Jason was in them, and he would tell me about it. And this girl's having all this trouble with this puppy I sold her. And
it turned the gas on in the kitchen when she wasn't home. What the hell is the dog doing out of a crate in the kitchen when you're not home?
Right. And so, well, now you're getting too specific, Jason. I wasn't trying to call anybody out. But
It was
anyway.
me that said it, not you. It was me that said it. I don't care. I don't
But
care.
anyway, like she never sent me one message asking me what to do with this dog. And I would just hear, and so that's what I'm talking about. It's just really silly. If I've got both parents and they're working, why wouldn't you just send me a message and hey, I'm having this issue,
Well,
So
and on that same note, so then you've got at the same time too, you've got people that will call you and ask you all of these questions about dogs, right? And you'll tell them all about your dogs. And you'll tell them, and then they ask you like, okay, well, how much are your puppies? And you tell them, and then they're like, okay, I'll think about it. I'll ask my wife, and then you never hear from them again. But then all of a sudden, like a few months later, you see them on these pages, or even worse, you see them in your messages asking you about problems with a puppy they bought from somebody else because they found it for cheaper. Well, the reason why you're paying from a good breeder to get a good dog is because you have that 24/7 help of someone that
yeah,
actually knows what the hell he's doing. He's not just breeding, said breed for a buck.
that
Like obviously,
mentorship has got to be the biggest. That's got to be
right.
the biggest piece of success.
You're buying the puppy, but at the same time, you're buying the knowledge of the breeder, or you're just buying the puppy and the breeder has no knowledge,
Well, people have a misconception of these dogs, man. And like I was saying earlier, they just think that a lot of people too are, what's crazy, man, is like, well, there's this is a lot to unpack, but there's a few things I want to mention. I went to Reddit and I noticed that there was a dog training thread, and then this guy was asking for help and if she should hire a professional, and these people were like, no, man, why would you ever do that? You need to bond with your dog. You need to and I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, you should hire a professional, absolutely. And it's like this esoteric knowledge that we all should have, and you're just like, it's not about just feeling good with this animal. Like there is tried and true methodologies, and like Jill just says, foundation training is critical, right? And if we have a good foundation, we can build to the sky, baby, right? But that foundation needs to be solid. It needs to be very well thought out. If we build a foundation in sand, as we go forward, we need to build it on solid ground, right? And the other thing here is that we have all these devices, man. I got them all over the place. The iPad, this phone, all this stuff that gives us access to knowledge out of a push of a button. And they think that this that raising animals is in that same. This is what I suspect is happening, is that they believe that they can access that same information of the nuances and the knowledge that they need for raising a dog, just like they would looking at Google for a recipe of a cake. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, man. Like
No.
the breeder has knowledge about your particular animal based on the lineage and the genetics. And even in the service dog world, like I asked these guys, what makes up the service dogs that you guys select? And they're like, we select our service dogs from these three dogs here, and it's 98% genetics. And so if you have, is that alpaca?
Yeah.
That we were just
That's one
talking
of
about.
that's one of those giveaways that used to be like a $10,000 alpaca.
Mm-hmm.
You got a free alpaca, but let me and so it doesn't work this way. And so if you have access to the breeder who knows the lineage of the dog that you have, that is a wealth of information that needs to be tapped into. And I just joined Farmers Only LGDs, and there is like 13,000. Wait, how many people are in here? 13,000 people, you guys. Holy smokes, it's a big
I've
world
been
out there.
building that group. Yeah, I've been building that group for a long time. I don't know, 7, 8 years now, and for a long time we were just like 1,000 people, and yeah, it's really taken off lately. But people are looking for a more common sense, rational way of dealing with their dogs, and
Here's something
you'll
else.
go ahead.
Oh, because you.
I muted it. I think he's talking. Well, and we'll let you go here in just a bit, Jason. If you want to, we'll chat later, dude. If there's any other thing that you want to mention while we got you here, and I want to say a second to thank Jill Neighbors, because she introduced me to Lucas right after I met Jill after talking with Jason, and I can tell, man, that I've joined the group, and then we got somebody asking, Lucas, off subject, can anyone join the group? I read the rules.
Yeah, just make sure you answer all 3 questions.
Okay. You're going to get booted if you don't follow the rules here, you know.
And they burn them down.
They burn them down in that group. Anything else, Jason, you want to mention before I let you go?
Just one thing that's totally on the topic of what we're talking about, and then we can just talk about the rest of the stuff, like probably next week. I got a busy week. But so, okay, people have been raising these dogs since before we could read and write. So remember that when you're trying to train these dogs that are as old as we are, you know, and there's all this information out there that anybody can type. I mean, I could go on there and type whatever I want, and it doesn't mean it's gospel. And people have been doing better with these dogs in times when they didn't have all these people telling them what to do. They just did what was working. And like, not saying that that's going to work for everybody, since our lives have changed so much and we're all so different than we used to be thousands of years ago. But always keep in your head that like, people have been doing this since, you know, before there were computers, before there was anybody being able to tell you what to do. They've been training livestock guardian dogs, and it all has to do, like we talked about in the first time I talked with you, it really all has to do with that bond, you know.
Well, and it was so easy back then when that was your livelihood, was just living with the livestock. You were with those dogs full time. You didn't have to purpose to have a relationship with your dog. You needed that dog. That dog was part of your family in a way that, in a more wholesome way, in a more complete way than the pet mentality that America has today. I mean, we relied on them for our living,
right?
And now
so
they're
call
now
me
they're
crazy again when I sleep with my dogs.
You're crazy.
All right, I gotta go, guys.
Wait, hold on. I want to point out one
bud.
thing before you go, Jason. The gradient of our beards is red to a little bit and to dark. I like the gradient here.
me and you, Bill, we got that giant blood.
That's right. You better believe, dude. 20-foot giants, redheads that were cannibals, man. And majestic. I love it. Well, and Jason, thank you for joining us, man. And then Jill says that she can't wait to see me go on the road. Always welcome to stop here. Thank you, Jill. I definitely will take you up on that. And I would love to visit Jason. And I am going to be visiting Lucas because he lives right down the road from me. And we're going to be taking some of this content on the road as well. So I look forward to that. And dude, and good luck building your fence.
Jill.
Oh, you're not? Cool.
Few hours.
We'll have a party. Beard trio. All right, Jason. All right. Message me if you have anything else that you want to come back on. You're welcome to. But I'm going to say bid you adieu, my friend.
You guys as well. I'll talk to you both soon, I'm sure.
All
Okay.
right. See you.
Right.
Awesome. There we go. Jason Kessler, you guys. Check him out. Yeah, man. So you just got this puppy from Jason, who just left. How old is the dog now?
I think they're about 5 months old. I want to say, no, not that old. January 24th, I think he said, is their birthday. So he's growing. He's getting big. We have a lot of raw meat that we feed our dogs, and so he's growing good. I haven't weighed him in a while. But yeah, I mean, nice pup, smart, and he's outcross program that Jason's working on. So he's half Sharplanic, and so that's a Serbian livestock guardian breed. And I'll be crossing him. If I like how he turns out, I'll be crossing him as a 2-year-old to some of my purebred females, Tibetan Mastiff females. So like I'm excited.
Jill has one too. He's a monster, right?
Yeah.
Jill, I think we need to do one of these with Jill. If you're interested, I'm inviting you now to do a live stream with me. And Jill's one of my supporters on Patreon, you guys. And Jill, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting me from the bottom of my heart. It just means the world to me that people are paying me to provide this content, I just want to take a second to thank her. And Jill, you got an open invitation to come and do one of these live streams with me as well. No, she's already okay. It's not for everybody, but we'll see. I look like a hobo, she says. That's hilarious. So I remember we were talking this morning. You were like, "Hey, man, this dog is bringing guts and, and bones and stuff to the door."
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not for the faint of heart. And these dogs are working dogs. And like you said, they eat raw meat. They're predator. Right. And so we have to take into consideration so much stuff. And I remember I was asking you what I wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to ask you this particular question. Here, let me get back to it. I wrote it down. Maybe here. We'll see. So how many sheep do you have, and what is the job, and what does a daily routine look like for you with your dogs?
So I just sold all my sheep. I was keeping them over at my dad's, where I've had pasture, and I was just struggling to maintain everything. My father-in-law has about 20 sheep out here where we live, and so we've got dogs living out with them, and we've got dogs running loose here on the farm, and I do have a neighbor who we need to finish our fence here, so the dogs quit going over there, because the previous owner, there was no fence, and she liked the dogs, and so they still kind of think that's their property. And so we do have some dogs that are still restricted in where they can go, but we've got several that are just running loose, and then some that live out with the sheep. And we've even got some around with the donkeys. I've got a dog that I got one of these mini zebus. And so we've also got goats running around having babies. Some of the dogs are living with the goats as they're having babies. So it just kind of depends on the individual dog and what they're able to deal with. They're not all great with cats, so they can't all be running around loose. But I've got this mini zebu. It's like a 300-pound cow, just a little bigger than a big sheep. And she's decided that one of my dogs is hers. And yeah, they're little. They're pretty fun. But I got it from one of my shearing customers, and he gave me a decent deal on it. And I brought her home, and she's just attached herself to this dog. And so funny, she was eating, I don't know, a couple 100 feet away. She was eating out of the feeder the other day, and the dog barked at me because I had my hood up walking like this, and the dog barked at me like I was somebody.
Something different.
That shouldn't, yeah. And so she's snarling and barking, and that cow pulled her head out of the feeder and came running over to help the dog, whatever she was dealing with. And it's so funny, that cow will lick her. She'll be like, the dog will be licking herself, grooming herself, and the cow will be licking her too. And I've never seen anything like it. It's the funniest thing. But
Wow.
these dogs and these animals can definitely form relationships, and that's beautiful to see. That's not typically a Tibetan Mastiff thing. They are typically guarding from the premise that this is their home. These are your animals. They're going to watch everything for you. Whereas Great Pyrenees and Maremma, they are more likely to bond with the actual livestock there. So, and this is one of the things that's hard. And you get one of these dogs, and maybe you think you have experience with livestock guardian dogs, but you get a Tibetan Mastiff or a Tibetan Cross, and they're different. And so that relationship with the breeder's got to be there. But anyway, that's, I get up and I will go off and I'll cut some meat off of whatever carcass I've got hanging, and I'll put it out to dogs. And, I don't always I don't feed them every day. I'll throw a big hunk that they can eat on for 2 or 3 days. They might have to fast for a day or two. and that's natural. That's what dogs. It's good for us too, by the way.
You bet.
We should be fasting.
I
Yeah,
do intermittent fasting all the time,
yeah,
man. Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm not real regimented with it. But I do give them the organs, and I do give them the offal, the intestines and everything. We'll empty out the grass and let the ducks and chickens dig through that.
Interesting. Wow.
Composts, we'll compost some stuff, but the majority of it, the dogs will eat. And then we started raising catfish, and the stuff that the dogs aren't going to really eat, that'll create maggots that the fish will eat. And so it's
And chickens
we're
too, and ducks.
and
They love
chickens
maggots.
too. Yeah. Oh, they do. So I'm able to kind of utilize everything, and people bring me these animals because they know that I feed my dogs, and I've got a reputation now for, at least here in the area, and I've got to go pick up two old, limping, decrepit horses later that need to be put down, and one of them is an old cranky stallion, I guess. It tried to break this lady's hand. I don't know the whole story, but she called me crying last night and just asked me to come get this horse. And it's sad, but anymore it's $1,000 to have a horse put down and have the renderer come and remove it.
Yeah.
And
and a lot of times they just put them in the ground too. I've had people with excavators just put down their horse and bury it right there. It's like we're getting benefit all the way around from this animal, right? And I know that it doesn't feel good, right, to hear or to actually partake in this kind of stuff, but it is benefiting and utilizing every part of that horse. And I mean, it's I believe that we belong to a world that is a little bit, I don't even know what the word for it, where we don't see this stuff anymore, right?
it's too sanitized.
I was going to say that it's a sanitized world. And even with the fasting, man, like I tell my pet dogs that are number one problem in the pet world is obesity, just like number one problem in the human world. Right. And there's so many benefits to fasting, man. And the top three benefits, age, and weight loss. Right. And so that's number one. And that's a no-brainer, but it also promotes for humans HGH, which is a human growth hormone, right? And it also helps athletic performance, right? And so when we're looking at the dog and we want them to perform, I mean, it's totally natural. And just think, man, if these dogs were out in the wild, they're not being provided every single day something to eat. They're opportunistic, and this is why they're opportunistic, because a hunt might come about, they might have a chance to eat, or they're going to go hungry again, right? And so people are too removed from the farm. Jason says it's natural. Absolutely. People are too removed from the farm, and I believe they're too removed from death. Actually, this is something that we used to, we have funeral homes now, we have mortuaries now, and even with human death. And before funeral homes and mortuaries, when somebody would die, they would be posted up in the living room of the house, and they would be buried on the property or in the town, either the graveyard or the cemetery. And the only difference between a graveyard and a cemetery is a graveyard has a church attached to it and a cemetery does not. Right. So, I mean, that's something that we could benefit from, because guess what? It's the other side of the coin, man. There's life is sustained by death. Go to your fridge and get something to eat and have it be still alive. I mean, besides like micro bacteria and stuff like that, probiotics and whatnot, that's small, but I'm talking about meat and even the vegetables and stuff that we eat that has to undergo the process of dying, so it can benefit us.
My wife was telling me about something she was reading where they were monitoring carrots, and I don't remember all the details of this, but they were monitoring carrots, electrical waves or something. And so this they'd be monitoring the carrot, and the person would be like, "Oh, I'm going to eat you. How anyway, it was not a nice way of talking to the carrot, right? And then there was a spike in electrical activity with the carrot where it was agitated. And then they would come in and talk nice, and I really appreciate that, your sacrifice, and I appreciate the sustenance that I'm going to receive from you, and it calmed down. And I don't understand how that works at all, but she was reading that over the last couple of weeks and shared that with me, and I don't know if you can find anything on that, but it's
oh wait, I'm sure I thought I was sharing it. Hold on.
oh, did you find it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's electromagnetic fields and the intention, and we have it's still not enough to really to get to the bottom of what's causing this stuff, right? But it is.
Right.
What is his name? He's actually a colonel, one of the guys that invented the lie detector machine, right? Because that goes on our electromagnetic fields and the difference, and they form a baseline, and that's how they find out if we're lying. Anything that deviates from that baseline, they'll ask us truthful questions and whatnot. And this is so plant scream when harmed. Yep, this is exactly. And and she says that her 12-year-old Tibetan Mastiff immediately vomits kibble if he gets it. Fasting and raw are the only diets. Tell Lucas to mention the Feeding Raw book. It changed the way I think about feeding. What's the Feeding Raw book? And then we'll go back to the plant thing.
Yeah, it's what's his name?
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, Jill, post the picture, Jill, of because she's got that handy on her. Yeah, it's I bought it on YouTube, Feeding Raw, and basically it's this. He's from Ireland. He was a zoologist for years, and he had to start learning about what's his name. But anyway, it's a great book, and she'll post it here soon. But
well, I wanted to go back. Oh, go ahead. Carnivore Kelly's diet premium. No, this is just a raw food supplier. So I wanted to finish what we were saying about the electromagnetic fields and the gentleman that invented the lie detector machine. And let me see if I can find. And basically, he took the electrodes that were on the lie detector machine, hooked it up to a plant. Okay. And then he was doing different things, like you said, talking nice to the plant. Hey, chill out, baby. Okay, go see your puppy. I have a cat out here that's driving my skipper key in here crazy. He took the electrodes and hooked it up to the lie detector machine. And what he did was he would go and talk nice to it, and then he would go and see when he was like, I'm going to go grab a match and I'm going to burn one of the leaves. And then he went and he looked at the data, and I just got the picture. Dr. Connor Brady, Feeding Raw.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what she just sent me. So I'll post up a link here to that as well. But when he went and looked at the data, Lucas, this is where it got interesting. He saw that not only did the energy of the plant spike, but the timing of the plant spiked when he had the thought, I'm going to burn it, and then he went and grabbed the match as well. And so there's the intention that's and Rupert Sheldrake from Oxford University has coined this field that it's called the epigenetic field of influence. And I believe that us as human beings, our conscious mind kind of convinces us that we're not connected to that, but the plants and the animals are absolutely connected to that. So it's not just the act, but the intention of doing that act as well.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll find out the book and all that stuff. I got all the books here. We were talking earlier. I got so many of these books, man. And some people have debunked it. Some people, I mean, I think that it's still a field of study that we really need to get into. But I think that once we understand this, that it will take our relationship to the next level with ourselves, with animals. And I'm not of the idea that we're never ever going to be perfect, but we should always strive to get there, right? And it's always what we call an asymptotic relationship where the lines are never ever going to touch, but they're going to get ever closer and closer and closer as our understanding grows of the plane of existence and the various influences of energetic and metaphysical and physical reasons of why this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
So, and I'll look for those books and stuff. But feeding raw, and what about eggs? What about the shells? All that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, super important. Obviously, they're getting plenty of calcium, and if you're feeding smaller livestock, say you have access to somebody's old goats and sheep and maybe small deer and things like that, the dogs can chew up a lot of those bones and get a lot of that natural calcium. But eggs are great, obviously, if you've got access to a lot of eggs. I mean, it becomes sort of an expensive way to feeding a lot of eggs. I'm feeding like 15 dogs right now, and chicken feed from the mill is not cheap. I think you're looking at it's over $700 a ton right now, and so that can become kind of an expensive way to feed your dogs. But there's almost nothing better than eggs. So and then with the shells, if you can break those up and mix it into a mix. I know Jill feeds raw with some rice, I think she was telling me, and she mixes different things in there. And I have fed them some rice before, but it's just a lot easier to throw them a big hunk of meat. And so far, everybody's coats are really healthy and everything's going well. But they probably do need more of a well-balanced diet. And if you're feeding only large muscle animals, so the trimmings of horse hooves, yeah.
Well, go to the pet store, dude. They have these cow hooves. They have they've just sanitized it, man. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they've added bleach. They've done shit that makes it more appealing to the human eye, right? And so they're like, "Ooh, what is this? That's lung, freeze-dried lung or whatever." And it's like, this is exactly what it is, right? And I've just posted up a link. It's about $40 to the Feeding Dogs, the raw book that Dr. Connor Brady, and then Cleve Baxter. So I wanted to show this, you guys, and I'll post up his book as well. But look at this. This is what I was just talking about. His name is Colonel Cleve Baxter. He was a colonel. It was 1924. He was the inventor of the lie detector machine, and here he is with his with the electrodes hooked up there. Right. And he could always spot a liar, right? As he liked to tell, never World War II. And this is wild. I'm going to post up a link to this article right here.
That's cool. I'm going to go read that. Yeah.
And then I have his book too, dude. So when you come here, or whenever we hang out, I'll show you it and we'll look at it. And it's just wild stuff, man. It just like, I have a insatiable insatiable hunger for knowledge. And I try to read 100 books every single year. And it's something that I encourage others to do, man. It's out there. The information is out there, and it's up to us to find it and disseminate it. And there's the article there that I just showed, and then I'll look for the book as well for Colonel Cleve Baxter here. But yeah, that's what we were talking about, the raw feeding, and I mean, even when we go to the grocery store, all the boxes and all this stuff that is just we're separated from it,
sure,
right? And a lot of these times with hunting and stuff like that, and gutting and cleaning. I have a bunch of chickens that we're going to harvest here pretty soon. And, it's all about, I mean, there is a process to it, but it's also, it's kind of dirty, you need to, there is, I don't know the word for it. It's like, it's real. That's the only word I could really think about. It's like, dude, this is real stuff. And then when I look at, the very first time that I had to butcher chickens, I go out to my chickens and I'm just like the night before, and I've got such a big heart, man. And I'm just like, you guys are about ready to go on a big adventure. That's what I was telling them. And I sat with them, and they're crazy, dude. These Cornish game hens are not like your layers, right? They're all over them. They're mean, right? And we butchered them, and then I had a barbecued Lucas. And I tried one of those chickens, man, and it was the best chicken I've ever eaten in my life, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, double it. We're doubling it next year. Dude. Like, once you experience that, and what I've noticed mostly is the bones of these chickens are like, they're rock hard, man. Like they've been out in the field, they've been eating the bugs and what they've lived a good life, right?
So
Where
you're doing the chicken tractors where they're eating grass and moving around. Then
we
is that
have
what you're doing?
a dome, one of the PVC domes. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
type of chicken tractor, but then we
Yeah.
move it around until they
Yeah.
basically there's no more grass, right?
That's great.
And
Yeah.
and then we'll move it to a place of the fresh grass, and they love it, man. And that's the biggest thing that I notice is, like, you go to Costco, you go to one of these chickens where they're mass produced because it's been kept away from us because it's unpleasant. A lot of times it's messy.
Yeah.
But you notice that the bones are brittle. And
Well, part of that is just being raised in confinement like that. They don't have to get up. They don't have to get up and move around, and that's part of. I mean, even for us, part of the reason we should be exercising is it strengthens our bones. We need that resistance, and when they're in confinement like that, they're just packed in. They don't even have to stand up to eat and drink, and they're just growing as fast as possible. And I have a buddy who has told me for years, if you don't purposely raise those feeders as the chickens grow, those Cornish cross, their legs will break under their own weight.
Yeah,
you have to
locate everything, man.
You have to force them to get up because they grow so fast. And so, it's the only way to do it out on the grass, and the food tastes so much better. It's so much healthier for you. And, you're getting trace minerals from the earth when you're doing that is not in, when they're in that factory farm setting, they're getting whatever came from the farmer. They're getting that pre-made grain mix. And so all the farming going on throughout the United States is they're farming the same piece of ground year after year, and they're putting the minerals that they think they need to grow back in. Temple Grandin.
Yeah, we just had a comment, and I just wanted to raise this. Is like, she says that proved animal raised in fear taste awful, man. They're like, the most damaging substance on the brain and the muscle tissue is adrenaline and endorphins, man.
Yeah.
Right, from our adrenals, right? And check it out. I actually, Temple Grandin, look at this, you guys. Let me see if this is one of the ones that to Bill.
Oh, awesome.
I had a wonderful, I've met her, and she's a wonderful, wonderful lady, but she has autism. And, I mean, she sees in pictures, right? And that's what she claims. And I think that I have a form of this too, man. Like, because that's just how I've always worked with dogs, and I've always just kind of been an outlier the way I think and the way I approach subjects. We've talked about this earlier. My mother called me her wizard because I would just like ask these weird, I mean, not weird, but profound questions about life and why we're here, what my purpose is, where was I before I was here. Stuff like that is just a burning desire for me to know this stuff. And I like philosophy. I like to look at this stuff and to really, really understand it. And when we start to truly break it down, we're stewards of these animals. And if we put these animals in a situation where the majority of their life is filled with fear, right, and confinement, and I mean, just, it's ugly, and we're consuming that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has to have an effect on us, I believe, right?
Yeah.
But if we have, like, look at your background, dude. That's the life that your animals live, right? It's beautiful, and it's natural, and it invites a natural progression of, like you said, the mineral intake and the nutrient preservation. And I think that, Temple's onto something, check her out, you guys. She's amazing. She has a lot of videos. She has some TED Talks, and she actually, she took the instances of cattle balking, meaning like doing fearful when they were brought to the slaughterhouse. Right. And this is something that isn't, the most, happy subject, but she allowed those cows, by understanding what was causing their fear, to calm down, right? And then also
Mm-hmm.
the hugging, right? And the, like, it's almost like swaddling a baby. When these cows were getting medicine, she invented this, or I don't know if she invented it, but she went into the cage where it would grab the cow, and if they found out that it was kind of a soothing to that cow, right? Because it
Hmm.
held them there, right? And so it's just
Okay.
wild stuff, man. Um, but super cool, especially if you own have a farm. And um, you know, a lot of people, they don't, they're separated, they go to the grocery store. I remember watching this video of this lady is like, no, the meat is from the grocery store.
You know, and there's I just made a post about this. Kind of a pet peeve of mine is there's a lot of people with lawns, and there's so many people that could raise a few chickens or have a few rabbits or even a few geese, and you could be getting some eggs. You could be getting your grass mowed for free, and we live such a sterilized life where everybody thinks the lawn needs to be cut with a mower and no poop can be on it. What if the kids want to play out there and they'll get poop on their feet? You know, but we are totally reliant on the grocery store for our eggs and our meat and everything else. And I realize there's a lot of people that live in apartments and places where you can't have some form of small livestock, but there are a lot of people with a backyard that could do something. And it would be nice if more people got into that and started just getting into a little bit of farming. Even in an apartment complex, you can have a little,
We call them pea
yeah,
patches here in Seattle,
yeah,
right? And little
yeah,
neighborhoods, they'll have a vacant lot that they've kind of taken over, and they have these gardens that they can just go tend their raised bed or something, and it's very
right.
cathartic. It's very, you know, it does something to the soul to get out in the sun and get in the dirt. And I mean,
Hmm.
there's a grounding aspect as well, right? Taking
Oh
off your
yeah, yeah, yeah,
shoes, right? And we're finding out that that is actually very beneficial to us, right? And
yeah.
discharging negative ions or whatever it is. But we need to get out there and, you know, experience it. And I'm so thankful I got my land here. I'm so thankful. I just um and it goes with understanding too, just like I was talking about with those chickens, man. Like at first
Yeah.
I was apprehensive, man, and I was heartbroken, but once I consumed the meat, then I was all in, dude. You know, and then when you realize how quickly they grow and you know, and how natural it is for this, and not only that, but how I felt, right?
Hmm.
I feel good. And
Yeah.
I tried going without meat for a while, and this is a totally different subject, right? But it's so
Yeah.
totally different conversation. But dude, I could hardly move my arms, and my joints started really, really getting
That whole
um,
inflammation thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then I went and I got some venison, and I ate my venison almost raw, dude. I just pan-sear it barely, like,
Hmm.
and I consumed it in 2 days, dude. I was back, and I that was a big lesson for me. Like, look, there's something in this meat that is benefiting me, and I'm a big fan of the scientific method. And what's the first step of the scientific method is observation, and I'm observing that which is happening within me. And and we owe it to our dogs to, or to our animals in general, to be stewards, to give them that which benefits them the most.
I talk about this on my tours with people. Just the inflammation thing. Sometimes I'm a tour guide. I take people up to Mount Rainier National Park, and I talk a little bit about just who I am and that I'm doing some farming and stuff. And I talk sometimes, not always. I don't have much of a script when I'm doing my tours, but I talk about inflammatory foods and the difference between grain finished, like at a feedlot, or a factory farm situation, like your chicken barns and your pig barns, and where they're just eating the soy and the
The
and
cattle
the
cattle
corn.
lots, thousands and
Right,
thousands.
right. It's all GMO food and stuff versus grass fed. and how the testing's been done. Like the grass fed is not inflammatory to your joints in your system. And when you're eating those high concentrated fed cows on the soy and the corn and the wheat, that meat creates inflammation in your system. And so everybody wants to go to Fred Meyer or whatever your local grocery chain is. Everybody wants to go there and get these yummy steaks. Those came from a feedlot. Those make you inflamed. They make your joints swell up. It's not good for you, but it sure tastes good. Just like sugar, it's not good for you, but it sure tastes good. And anyway, it's the same. Let's bring this back to the dogs. It's the reason I feed raw versus a lot of kibble, because just like our food that's in the grocery store is inflammatory and bad for our systems, it's the same with most of the kibble out there. And I'm not condemning all kibble, but they put preservatives in there and they use protein sources that are exactly what we're talking about. Do you think they're sourcing grass-fed beef for your dog food? There's no way.
No, well,
there's no way.
There's also there's a lot of whistleblowers in the dog food community that they talk about the dead, diseased, drugged, and dying, the 4 Ds that they always feed the dogs, and that's what they go to. Basically, these plants where they make this protein meal, and it's roadkill too. And guess what? It's euthanized dogs, euthanized cats, like they put and they go. They sell
there's drugs in there, yeah,
right?
Yeah,
drugged dogs, right? And so, and these are called rendering. I mean, they're rendering just like we do with the horses too. Like what you were saying, the $1,000 to put down a horse and send it to a rendering plant. And if that horse was just euthanized with euthanol, right, that goes in and stops the heart, man. And I mean, it's basically a high source of potassium, and it's electrolyte that is not good for them. And I can see how that can spike and change the body. Yeah, there is a reason why it's illegal to go undercover, right? They got these politicians in their pocket, man, because people have gone into these plants with hidden cameras to show the truth. Right.
Yeah.
And to show the public the abuse of the food-based commercial farms. Right. And that just goes into what you're consuming. Right. And you have to be your own advocate, man. You have to be your own family's advocate. You have to be your dogs, your livestock's advocate as well, because the world would happily have you eat the stuff that would make you sick. And then we have a medical complex that don't get me started on that one, But
we could go in all kinds of directions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point being is, like, you have to be the one that not just knows about this stuff, but takes the action and to fix it.
Yeah.
We have a question. I'm going to go to the comments here too. The raw meat that you feed your dogs, is that grass fed?
Yeah. So I do ask people when they bring me a horse, I ask them if they've had any medications, if they've had any, wormers where they've gotten the medicine to kill the parasites. And if they have recently, I'll just feed them for, a couple of months, maybe. I've got a horse right now that had a certain amount of cancer, and he was on cancer medication. And I've been feeding him now for 3 months, just waiting for him to kind of clear whatever was in his system. And so he's getting fed haylage right now, which is just fermented hay. So yeah, it's grass. I'm not feeding grain, and and there's even a difference from the grain that you would feed at, get from your feed mill versus the grain that comes in train cars to these factory and farm situations. Go away. And it's my kid. He's bored. Yeah. Anyway, but there is a difference there. I think the factory farm setup is even worse than what you can buy at the feed store. But even at the feed store, they've got the chemicals, and they've got it's not the best. So
they want to make as much money as they can, and that's what it boils down to, is the money, right? And if
Right.
they have mold in a part, then they're going to just spray it with something that makes it look like they don't have that mold, and we're the only country that allows poison in human food. Ugh.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
should show you this stuff, man. Like I went to my friend in Canada was eating Fruit Loops, and I was like, "Why are you eating Fruit Loops? That's GMO crap." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Take a picture of the label and send it to me." And dude, it's different than here in America. Like I took a picture of the label of Fruit Loops and I sent it to her, and I'll see if I can find it because I have her as a friend here. But I'm going to finish this. We're the only country that allows poison in human food. They don't care about people, so why would they make kibble anything but a money machine? And
Yep.
that's why you have to be the advocate. 100 books.
Yeah.
I tried to last year. I did not make it to 100, but hopefully I will overshoot that. And then the reason and how I can do this, you guys, too, is there's an app called Voice Dream. Okay, and I do Audible as well. Like Lucas, I spend a lot of time on the road, and so if I'm busy, if I'm working dogs, I'm working out in my field, if I can have an audiobook list or read to me, I retain that knowledge as well. I'm a bit dyslexic, and so I've challenged myself to be to trudge through some of these books. But some of the books that are very, very hard for me to get through, and some like obscure like articles of like just like congressional articles or whatever, I'll put in this. And Voice Dream, I'll see if I can find a link to it, is an app that you can buy on your phone that will read out loud PDFs to you. So if you can find a PDF version of this book, and a lot of these books are available in the public domain, that you can find PDFs and plug it in there, then you basically have access to, unlimited amounts of books. And I'm talking like Homer's Iliad, Odyssey, like we have so many that are out there that are just a wealth of human history. And I mean, it's so cool when you can find these books. So let me try a Voice Dream reader app. I'm going to post up a link here, and
Nice.
let me see if I find it. Maybe Voice Stream Reader app at the App Store. Oh wait, here's Voice Stream, and this is what it looks like, you guys. Here, I'll share the screen so you guys can kind of see it. And then you can. Here we go. Maybe here. This is what it looks like. It's like blue with this, and it's like 10. Oh, it says free. I bought that. There was a $10 version of it, and yeah, any notes, anything you copy and paste, it will read out loud to you. And not only will it read it out loud to you, but you can change how fast the words are read to you if you can kind of take it in. And sometimes I like to speak and hear things quickly. And you can also change the voices. So if I have an author that's like from England that's a female, then I can pick out an author that has a British voice that's a female on that, right? And it's pretty freaking cool, you guys. So that's how I am able to do this, and how I'm able to consume so much content. So yeah, so many good biographies. Yep, same thing. Learning so much. Cool. Everybody's learning so much, and this is great stuff, man. And I'm going to look for another book too that where it talks about the perils of the dog food industry. And then I know that you also have your family there too, so we'll keep going. But if you need to run, you let me know, and we'll definitely pick up on this later or whatever. But it's also I think that the biggest thing that people need to know, and what my friend Jill, who suggested you come on, was like, there is a big difference between working dogs and pet dogs. And to not know about the pet dogs, there they are. You can say hi to them too. And do you know what? If you want to talk to them for a second, I'm going to mute you and pull you down, and go chat with your kids for a second. And I'm going to talk for just a second, Lucas. Okay? So go chat with him. Cool. Lucas, and then he'll be back on stream here once he chats with his kiddos there. And I know he homeschools his kids. He does everything. And so he's got a busy life. And you guys, he's an amazing person. And I'm grateful. And guess what? I'm going to go on tour with him. I'm Matt Rainier. He's invited me, and we're also going to be doing a barbecue together. And Jill, thank you for introducing me to him. This is such a treat. And if you guys have anybody that you know that I should chat with about anything pertaining to dogs, let me know, message me. But you guys know what you're feeding your dogs. And I'm busy as well, too. Yes, I am. This is Christopher Upton, you guys. Christopher Upton is a wonderful bird training dog. He has a bird dog trainer. He has his own Patreon as well with thousands and thousands. He's actually my new inspiration on Patreon. So I want to get to the level that he is with as many subscribers that he has. So head on over if you guys like what I'm doing here. Then head over to Patreon, support me. I would appreciate it so much. And he's back. Did you take care of the little guys there?
Yeah, he's just got so much energy. I got 4 of them. We got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old. Those are our boys. A 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and those are our girls. And yeah, we're here homeschooling, and they got a ton of energy. And Daddy, look at me all day.
Of course, I don't blame him, dude. I was the same way, and I commend you for being, a father that's present in your kids' lives, and not ushering off to these schools. A lot of these schools have become government indoctrination camps, and people have woken up to that, and it's also kind of a model. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the school day is meant to mimic the working day, and so it kind of conditions those kids to hear a bell. And where else have we heard a bell causes a reaction, right? Pavlov, right? So this is basically a Pavlovian response.
Right.
When you hear a bell, you need to go to class. Then you'll hear another bell that indicates when you go on break. And then when your break is done, you hear another bell that indicates you go to class, and you work for a bit, go to lunch, hear a bell, and then break, and then go home. And then the same thing when we go, the bells aren't present there because the conditioning has been done. And so when you go to work, then that is something that is
I was a school bus driver before I started driving tour bus, and I drove school bus for 3 years for the public school system here. And I had already decided I was going to homeschool my kids, but after driving school bus for 3 years, I was like, yeah, there's no way my kids are going to public school. It's so different than what we grew up with. We didn't grow up with cell phones where we could show each other all kinds of craziness.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. How do you instruct your kids to act around these dogs?
We are constantly telling them to not get in their faces. Of course, my dogs are pretty good about that. That's just good. We just are trying to instill good behavior with the kids where they understand the proper, this is how you deal with dogs. I don't want them like that. I was telling you this morning that Chow almost bit my boy because he smothered him. He got in, the dog was already up against something, and he got in his face and tried to give him a hug. And so we tell them not to do that stuff, but my dogs won't bite them, so it's not till they get around. Yeah. So, but, we always tell them, I know you're supposed to be able to put your hands down with the food with a dog. The dog's supposed to accept that kind of thing. We just teach them not to try, just leave the dogs alone when they're eating, things like that. Because there's no reason to tempt them and or to test them or to, I don't want my dogs needing to go through that where they actually bite a child. That's not fair to the dogs. So I just don't even put them in the situation.
Well, I remember when I got bit as a kid, they were like, what were you doing to that dog?
Oh, I have a border collie, and my oldest son has kind of a naughty streak. And he would
doesn't fall far from the tree, huh? No, just kidding.
Well, and I remember he would walk on and stand on and try, on the dog. When the dog would lay down, he'd step on him and stuff. And I'd tell him, Henry, stop that. You're being mean. And I heard a scream and then crying. And I came around the corner, and my border collie had my son pinned down on the ground, and he had a little mark on his face because he nipped him. That dog could have ripped his throat out. He didn't.
No.
He just put him down on the ground and nipped him. And I know my son had climbed on him and was being a jerk. And I had friends tell me, "Oh, you should put that dog down." And I'm like, "Look, dog could have hurt him. He didn't. He put him down. He taught him the lesson that I'd been trying to teach him, and he wasn't listening to me." And it's such a great example of how dogs communicate that we don't really comprehend. As the pack leaders, we don't implement
The structure.
we don't yeah. So anyway, I try to teach them to be careful and respectful of the dogs, and sometimes the dogs have to do it for me, but
well, that's natural consequences of the natural world, right? Is like, dude, you're going to mess with this dog and you're going to get bit, dude. And not only that, but the three instances that they're most likely to get bit: eating, number one, makes sense, right? That's a very valuable resource for that animal, right?
Right.
Mouthing an object like a toy or bone, that kind of falls into like a derivation of that eating, right? A derivative of that eating. But the dog's possessive of that object, and that object is meaningful to that animal, right? And it's almost like a challenge that this kid is coming up, even though he's playing, is still a challenge of perceived by that animal, right?
Right.
And then the third thing would be sleeping, which would be a very vulnerable time for that animal, right? To check out, right? And to fully let their body kind of be accessible and open. And sometimes the dog will bite before it's even awake, right? Because it is a natural reflexive response for that animal to protect their body. And so that's where I emphasize with the kids, man, don't mess with this dog while it's eating. Don't mess with this dog or sleep. Let sleeping dogs lie, right? Now, it doesn't mean that, like, if that dog were to bite me, then we'd have a different conversation, right? But that kid is a little bit, just like you said, a manic, not fully formed. It's during the formative years, and they're learning, and through experience is the best knowledge that we can gain, in my opinion, right? And something that we'll always remember. But that dog, 80% of kids are dog bites are to kids, right? And so the majority of them, and a lot of these bites are in the neck and face area because it's natural for a dog to correct another dog in that area, because they're addressing the point of contention right there, right? And making it very obvious that I'm not playing around here. And so it's clear communication on the animal's part. And sometimes that we have to experience that. And I think that that sanitized world that we belong to trickles into those relationships as well. And unfortunately, so many dogs have lost their lives for the misunderstanding that we have, and a situation that we might have put them in inadvertently.
Right.
Yeah. My dog, here we just got a comment. My dog, Bruno, always growls at me when he's sleeping. I put my cold feet on him, never bites me. It's just like a F you, and jumps off the bed. And growling and noises that they make are indicators. That's communication, just like the noises that we're making right now, this monkey chatter. That I think that we rely too much on this monkey chatter and not enough on our visual to look at the telltale signs that we are approaching trouble here.
I was a horse trainer for most of my life, and I definitely relied a lot on visual and presence of being with the horses, and I think that's a big key, or a big helpful thing when you are, because it relates directly with the dogs. It relates directly with your own children. There's, like you were talking about, having visualizations or seeing in pictures like Temple Grandin does. Animals, whether it's horses or dogs or cats or what, they can read your intentions. If you're displeased with something, there's a presence that you give off. There's an energy that you give off, and they get that, and it irks me whenever people yell at a dog or a horse or even your kid. Like, you should be able to kind of focus your energy and be like, hey,
enough.
you shouldn't have to shout. You should be able to simply get their attention, and they're going to go, okay, sorry.
Who we got behind you there?
This is Ninja, and we call her Ninja because she's sneaky.
Oh,
she sneaks all over the farm. Yeah, but she's one that can be loose running around, and she's running out to the pond to go check things out. But yeah, we've got three right now that just basically can go where they want and they're fine. But it would be pretty chaotic if all of them could.
Yeah. So, well, and I tell people, when you're getting on your dog, it's like getting on a kid in church, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you can't make a big noise here because the pastor's up there giving a sermon or whatever, but you got to look.
Yeah.
Or just like a little tug, and hey, enough. That stops now, right? It's very calm, but assertive energy, and it's very matter of fact. And it's like, I'm projecting this to you, dude. Like, don't take my kindness as a weakness, because if you try to take advantage of me, you're going to see really quick that I can hand you your ass if you need me to, but I prefer that we not go that route, but it's always available to us. But that's also the realization of two of it, like the animal, the kid gets it, right? And that's what I tell my clients is like, with my 80% of the clients that I work with are women, right? But the men that I work with, a lot of times I'm like, ease up, dude, he's got it, right? It's like, we're driving it home, the dog got it back here, man. Like your point has been made. You don't need to keep reiterating it. And we can learn, I think, from a calm collective energy.
It was the same with horses. Most of my clients would be female. And just teaching people to get your point across. You can't just keep repeating yourself over and over again. You have to increase the pressure, increase the volume, however that comes. And I don't mean physical volume as in shouting. I mean, when you're trying to communicate, what you do has to grow until you get that reaction you're looking for. And so many people, they treat their kids the same way. My wife does it, constantly repeating herself. And I'll tell my kids, hey, stop doing that.
Or
I'm not going to say it again.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say, yeah. They know if I have to repeat myself, more is coming. Bigger. I'm not just going to repeat myself. Yeah. So, I keep a BB gun with me. I'm kidding. Yeah.
I just threaten them with it. Be like, hey, we got a problem here.
No, I said, go away. No.
Yeah. And it's like, I get it, man. We're nurturers by nature, and there's something that happens even when I'm looking at my mama dog here, right? When my moms have a baby, they're not the same. The nurturing aspect kicks in, and I could see it at a drop of a dime once that first baby is born, right?
Yeah.
And this is predator. And then we have human being, which is nurtured by nature. And especially my women that have had children, that are moms, that have gone through that veil of becoming a mom, right? There's this protective aspect, but a nurturing aspect that, because we are with our human parents for so long, that is, we have that time. And with the woman, it's clear communication to repeat and to be patient. But a lot of times I tell my women, like, that makes you look like a sucker to the dog, right? The dog knows that they can take advantage of this. So we need to tap in to something that I call it mama bear energy, right? We need to tap into that mama bear. Women have this power that is hold on one second. I got two dogs that are being idiots. I'll be right back. But mama bear have a power that that we don't want to mess with. And if you've ever seen a bear, and maybe I'll post up I got a mail delivery here. I'll post up a picture of a bear going after somebody, and once they see that tapping into, or once they see the power that this bear has of protection, it's
Right.
like a transmutation of that energy. And man, I mean, that energy can fill this whole room, this whole house. I mean, without
Yeah.
saying a word, right? And
Yeah.
so once we've tapped into that, once we start to channel that mama bear, then I'm like, I'm out. You know, my job here is done. And but a lot of times it's the exercises that remind them of that, but it's also the dog's performance and the dog's behavior that changes, and they see that that dog respects that energy so much more. And not only that, but
Right.
the dog calms as well.
Right.
Is it the same with kids? You see them calming down when, you know?
I think so. Yeah. My kids are super social. And so what seems to work really good for us is, and we notice it when they're getting tired, they just start getting so rambunctious and wild when they're getting tired, which seems counterintuitive. But anyway, they want that interaction. I think the thing that has resonated the most with them is go take a break, go outside, you know, and then they're removed from the situation where they're getting out of control with. They have a minute to kind of resort their feelings and thoughts, and they can come back in. And that seems to be the easiest way. I'm not a yeller. I don't like spanking. You know, I just so I'm always trying to find ways to deal with them that don't include raising the volume and turning into the mama bear if possible. But they certainly know they don't want me to get there.
Well, you got Papa Bear too, and that's automatically, you know, viewed as enforcer. So she's
Right.
out here, she's hunting for fish. She's been caring for her bears for a year. And sometimes, man, I'll show them bear videos, you know, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And you know, to channel that energy, you know, and just like Mama Bear is not having, look at this. You know,
Oh yeah.
she puts himself right in her face, and it's like, even though she's weak, even though she's hungry, she is not budging. In fact, she is standing her ground. She's not yielding 1 inch of space to that bear.
Right.
And it's not, she's not going over there and you know, the work's not done yet. Her baby's still hungry. But it's also, it's like, it's not about being loud and not about being dramatic. It's about being focused and being clear, crystal clear on what you want here and what you expect, right? And
Right.
there's something that's powerful. And I'm not a woman, so I don't know, nor will I ever be a woman, right? There's something that they have that I don't have that's majestic, dude. It's something it's super powerful. I've seen it over and over and over and over again, so I know it is there. And let me see, we're almost talking for 2 hours, man, so I'm going to let you go here pretty soon. But I guess that explains why I'm not in the 80% of females. Being raised by a man and raising 5 boys, I don't know how to be a girl, if ever.
If you see her going one of her rants, you know what she's talking about. Yeah, and I'm at 10% battery, so
yeah, there you go. And it's also like, there's also the value of being nurturing too, and 180 degrees, man, like turning it on and being able to turn it off and welcome that nurturing, that love. And you know, because there's value to that as well. You can change your sex if you want. Even if I were to change my sex, I still wouldn't know. He's such a dick. That's what So, dude, how do people find you? And then I usually do like a segment of this that's for my Patreon page, but I'm going to do that live with you. We're going to do the where we if that's cool with you, like when I come down and see you or whenever we meet up, we'll do a conversation together, and that will be featured on my Patreon page, and I'll let everybody know when that is.
cool.
But I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate your willingness to tell the truth and share your experiences with me and others that are watching this as well. How do people find you if they want to get a hold of you, or if they want any advice on how to raise their livestock guardian dog?
Yeah, I mean, if they go to Farmers Only LGD, you'll see I'm one of the admins there, and then you could just friend me on Facebook, or I have a Twitter that I hardly ever use. I just check it for what the park is doing, basically, is what I use Twitter for. So I'm not really big on social media. I've got an Instagram page that I hardly ever get on. So Facebook's probably the easiest way to send me a message if you're interested. I do have a old Facebook page that I don't remember how to get into. I had set it up originally for my horse training stuff, and then forgot the code, and then there's two pages, Lucas Stoehr. It's just my name there. But the easiest way to make sure you're saying hi to the right one is just to do the Farmers Only LGD. We also have Stoehr Tibetan Mastiffs, spelt like my last name. That's another Facebook page we have. And then Stoehr Livestock Services, I think it's called. And that's more to kind of promote our sheep shearing and stuff. And alpaca and llama shearing and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm on there, I'm around there, and happy to chat with people. And we should have some pups if people are interested this next year, but we took a break from any pups this year. It just seems like go ahead.
Seems like what? No, I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
It just seems like over COVID, everybody got into breeding Tibetan Mastiffs, and so I was like, I'm not going to add to that,
Dude, the instances of dog attacks are going through the roof, dude. It's crazy. Are they? Yeah. I think that once we see, especially the data after a few years, that we're going to see a big spike, because these COVID dogs are now adults, and people didn't a lot of times do the work necessary for them, or they got a powerful breed that's high maintenance that they didn't realize what they were getting into. Do you mind if I share? I'm part of the Farmers Only LGDs. Do you mind if I share it real quick on this?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Cool, man. Because I want to share that. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you before we go, because you were a horse trainer, look at this, you guys. Like, we have all the rules and stuff, but I saw this Pyrenees with a carcass here, a little right there. Look at that. So it's not for the faint of heart, and my dogs keep killing armadillos, depositing them on the front yard, little gift, but this is the one-stop shop. 13,000 people, you guys, that are in this group. And
we try to make sure it's focused on education too. We're trying to keep it from being a puppy page.
Totally. Yeah. I don't blame you at all. So one of the last question I want to ask you before we go is, like, as a horse trainer, is there a difference, or what is the main difference that you see when training horses versus dogs, an herbivore versus a predator?
Right. Well, I think the communication principles are similar. Talking about energy and talking about intent. And realistically, dogs, when they're communicating with each other, correcting each other, are different than how horses do. Both include biting, but horses obviously can kick too. And they would prefer to flee the horses would prefer to flee rather than to fight. And that's probably true of dogs in general too, but you're always going to have those alpha types. And so it really just comes down to recognizing how they react to being pressured. And, your prey animal is going to react from fear. And a dog is motivated by wanting to please you often, not necessarily with the livestock guardian dogs, but a horse is not motivated to please you. A horse is motivated a little differently. So there's a lot of factors to keep in mind, but the basic principles of communication are there, and there's a lot you can relate from horses and dogs.
I've heard it say that horses move away where dogs move towards, right? Is that
That's a pretty good generalization, I would say. Yeah.
okay? Cool, man. Where are you going?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about going to try and plug in. We've got a plug in here in the
Oh, we're good, man.
cabin, but I know we're close. I know we're about done.
Yeah, I think we're gonna call it, but you stay there, so go ahead and plug it in. But let's say goodbye. We can say goodbye to our audience here, and then I'll meet you back in the studio. And thank you very much for your time, and you guys check them out.
Absolutely.
A livestock guardian dog is a working dog. It's not a pet. And if we get one of these dogs, as I call it, like a looking at dog. Oh, I think you lost you. But if we get one of these dogs as like a looking at dog instead of considering the job of this animal, a lot of times we're going to be in for a very rude awakening. So do your homework and make sure you know what you're getting into when you get one of these powerful, high maintenance. I mean, any dog that is a powerful breed needs to be respected, and you got to know what you're getting into, and also tap into the knowledge set of the breeders, tap into the knowledge set of whoever you got this dog from. And we'll see if I like the idea that Jill had earlier about Jason and Lucas doing like Zoom calls, right? Let me see if I can scroll up here in the comments here, where I want to see where you mentioned that. Need a team of people to get paid right here. Need a team of people, Lucas, need to offer paid services via Zoom versus let all the trainers do it. And that's why I'm talking to these guys, because I am a dog trainer, but I don't know everything there is to know about these working dogs, these livestock guardian breeds. So thank you everybody for joining us. Join me over on Patreon. The link is in the comments. And you bet, Jill. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for introducing me to Lucas. And I look forward to meeting you someday and visiting you as well. And I think that's it, you guys. Have a wonderful day. See ya.